I think it is getting the courage. And one of the best lines that I heard, phrases that I heard was not fake it till you make it, because we don't want to be fake, but be it till you see it. Like, yes, 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 yeah, be it till you see it. I can be whatever I want to be.
Hey, listeners, welcome to another episode of Light Beyond Limits, the podcast where we talk about the stories and the breakthroughs that people have had with their limitations and the lessons that they learned from it. My name is William Blake, and today we have a very special guest from the UK, Nicola Ashdown. Nicola is the founder of Dyslexia Desk Business Hub, a UK-based virtual service specializing in bookkeeping and administration for startups, sole traders, small companies, and charities. With a keen understanding of unique challenges faced by businesses without clerical staff, Nicola excels in setting up efficient processes and procedures, offering both hands-on administrative support and training for clients who wish to manage their own back office functions. Passionate about empowering neurotypical business owners, Nicola combines professional expertise with personal experience, having dyslexia. Outside of work, Nicola enjoys walking, spending time with her dogs, and exploring meditation and well-being practices. Nicola is dedicated to helping clients thrive by alleviating the stress of administrative tasks. Nicola, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you briefly, and I look forward to the chat that we're going to have today.
Yes, me too. And I love dyslexia, and I love even more talking to people about it. So,
Same.
yeah.
I can steer any conversation to dyslexia some way.
Some way, somehow, it will always lead back to our favorite topic.
I see people and think, oh, I wonder if you've got dyslexia, because that seems like a dyslexia habit that you're portraying there.
Yeah, it's like, do you have what I have? Let's go find out. To start off, Nicola, I want our listeners to hear your story, because I heard it when we were able to jump on a call the time before. I absolutely loved it. That's the exact reason why you're on here. Just, can you share your personal story with dyslexia, when you were diagnosed, and what the experience was like for you?
Of course, yes. So I'm a woman, and most women don't like sharing their ages, but I'm going to share my age. I'm 48, and I was diagnosed at the age of 47. So my schooling was challenging. I went through school being undiagnosed. My dad was also in the forces, so we moved around. So I went to various schools. And due to that, I was quite a shy child. So I don't think my struggles were noticed because they didn't see or identify my intelligence. Because, as we all know, just because we've got dyslexia, it doesn't mean that it affects our IQ. So whenever I tried really hard, it didn't work out for me. I can remember trying really, 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 really hard and again getting that flunk of a D. And in the end, come teenage years, I just gave up. I just thought there's no point in this, because when I do put in the effort, I fail anyway. So I may as well just go to school and have a good time and mess around and try and get some dopamine hits that way. So that's what I did. I kind of went down the alternative route. I had the big DM boots, and then they weren't big enough, so I went and bought army boots and wore little dresses. Went completely alternative. Was one of those kids that hung around the park that my parents didn't like very much. Left home at 15, left home really early, and ended up kind of just hanging around with all the kids that were at sixth form. So, oh, so and so's got a lecture, or they're off at this time, so I'll hang around with them, and then I'll hang around with them, and then they all went to uni, so I moved to the city with them, and I even rented a room in one of the uni digs because I was kind of part of that intellectual group of people. But I just never thought that I would ever be able to do anything that they could do until I, at the young age of around 20, I had my first child. And when this beautiful little girl was born, I just had a complete reality check. And I thought, I am going to support this child any way I can. And I'm going to teach her. She is not going to struggle like me because I am going to really carefully help this little girl with education because I knew inside that there was more in me. I knew something. So I was just this, dedicated. I learned all about games and I was teaching her all her alphabet and all her recognizing numbers when she was just like in between the ages of 2 and 3. I then just started studying about child education, child psychology, all teaching myself, albeit very slow those days because I didn't have the internet. So it was going to the library and just reading. And then I ended up working in a primary school because I'd shown my passion for children's education. And I had the job of teaching and supporting the dyslexic children. So it was them that I first told that I thought I had dyslexia too. So it was that, 8-year old, and we'd have to go out and I say, you don't have to worry, right? We're going to work on these spellings. And in the classroom, if they were asking me how do you spell something, I say, you have a try, I'll have a go, and then we'll look it up in the dictionary. And they liked it, and they liked the fact that sometimes I was like, I'm not actually sure if that's going to be an I or an E. I can't quite work out what vowel sound that will be. So I could see in their faces that they no longer had the worry or the fear of asking me how to spell things, because as far as they were concerned, I was the intelligent adult. So I really, really enjoyed that career. And then as my children grew, I just wanted more. And my husband had become self-employed and I've been doing his bookkeeping. And we'd taken it to the accountants and he complimented it. And I think that was the first major compliment I'd had, apart from in the primary school, teacher support thing. And I thought, oh, so I went to college, studied my bookkeeping exams, got my first job, and then just literally flew in the company and became a senior manager and loved it. But then I reached burnout because they saw my passion for work and they wasn't aware that I was working at 120% of my brain capacity, really trying to get the results that I was getting. So when there was a business crisis and they needed more, I became overwhelmed because I couldn't give anymore. My brain just wouldn't give anymore, and it resulted in depression and anxiety and behaving really unprofessionally, breaking down and crying. And the director couldn't really get what was happening. So I'm kind of looking for things, trying to work out what it was, because I didn't know what burnout was. I didn't know I was dyslexic. So it wasn't something that I was managing particularly well in the wellness aspect. Strategies, yes, to get by, but not in what I needed physically or mentally. So I left a job that I absolutely adored, and then went and that was a company that were social workers and looked after children's homes, because us with dyslexia, because we've struggled, we do tend to have a lot of empathy. So I loved being part of an amazing company that looked after young people, because I couldn't do the amazing job that these social workers would do. I would take all the trauma back with me, but I loved being part of it. I loved supporting them and working with them. So it was a real sad day when I left that. To cut a long story short, I then did different jobs elsewhere. And it was all fine, but there was no, the passion wasn't there. And there was still that, for me, I get that tightness in my chest. Sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit unsure, I was hiding my struggles, and I was writing reports, and there was always that like underlying level of anxiety that I thought I was a fake. I thought that I shouldn't really have these positions because I'm hiding this. And then one day my fear came true, and I was pulled into the office about a spelling error in a employee contract. And I just thought, that's it. I need to find out for once and for all if I've got dyslexia, and really think about what I'm going to do in the future. So I was lucky enough to be fortunate enough to be able to pay for my own assessment, because they're not cheap here in the UK. It was £500-600, but I used some of my savings, and I got that diagnosis. And afterwards, again, I fell into a little bit of depression, because I just was like, oh my God, okay, so this is it. Then I started learning about it, studying about it. I know a lot of people hate the superpower term, but because I heard somebody else using it, I was like, what do you mean, superpower? This is kind of been the anxiety and the depression of my life, and you're talking about superpower. What do you mean? So I started learning about what they mean. And what they mean is, yes, we have struggles, but we also have strengths. And some of the strengths that we have come easier to us than other people who may not have dyslexia. And some of those strengths are what made me so good in the business world. And then I started bit by bit kind of picking myself up and knowing what my strengths were, and for the first time acknowledging my achievements and working on my confidence, to the point that I thought, without swearing, of course, this is amazing. This is absolutely brilliant. I've got where I've got with dyslexia, but it's my dyslexia that's helped me get where I've got. Because we'd be in business meetings and I would have ideas, and somebody from this department would say, I think we should do this. And I would be able to say, oh, but if you do that, the whole effect could make this department a little bit trickier, so we'll have to tweak that, and then that will work. So it's that big picture. We hear these things, what do you mean? That's that big picture thinking, and that's why I grew and became a senior manager of the company that I ended up leaving. So again, with supporting people in primary school, my love for business, and the fact that I'd spent so long with your shoulders up, and I just thought, I'm not going to live like this anymore. And actually 2 weeks ago, I told my last client that I had dyslexia, because I'd actually set my own business up without even talking about dyslexia, my bookkeeping business. So now I'm completely unmasked. Everybody I work with knows I've got dyslexia. They know my strengths, and it's just the best feeling ever. I don't have to feel like I'm going to be caught and watched out anymore, and someone's going to know that I'm where I am. I'm working for who I am, and they know my strengths and they know my weaknesses, and it's just been amazing. So the Dyslexia Desk Business Hub came about because I want others to feel like I feel. I want a dyslexia entrepreneur to be able to speak openly, relax, and know that if they send me a real quick message on their phone and there's typos, they don't have to spend 10 minutes writing me an email. They can spend 3 minutes because it doesn't matter, because it's just us having a conversation. It's not a legal document. Of course, there's times that we're going to have to make sure that things that we put out don't have those errors. But if we're just chatting, it doesn't matter. So they can put their shoulders down and they can relax. And part of that as well is for young people coming through education who are, because let's face it, us dyslexics are passionate as well. And, you know, if they want to get into business, they might think, oh, I can't. But if they hear about me, see me talking about it, it might give them the, oh, there is somewhere I can go for help and support with everything. Because if I can't do it, I can find somebody who can. That's what I did as an office manager. And I did a presentation the other day at a networking group, and I was talking about my dyslexia. And then two people within that group said, I don't tell people, but yeah, I'm dyslexic as well. So that was really nice. And it's, yeah, let's get that story out. Let's get people talking about it. Let's get it as a norm. Let's get it to the point that people are thinking, oh, I'm going to ask so and so to do that. She's dyslexic and her strengths are such and such. And rather than only looking at dyslexic as the negative, but actually, you know, knowing that we are brilliant at lots of other things as well. So that's a kind of shortened but quite lengthy introduction to me.
I love. I had that same experience. I went to a networking event. Not the same experience with the whole story. I loved the story. Just that final part where you started to just talk about it, and after you talked about it, people just like came up to you and said, "Hey, I don't talk about it too much, but I'm dyslexic." I had that same experience as I went to a networking event, and they were asking me what I did, and I'm like, "Yeah, I help adult dyslexics who struggle with their confidence and self-belief." And they looked at me and said, that's super cool. I also have dyslexia. And like, I think it was like at least three people came up to me when they heard about it, and they were just like, hey, I have dyslexia too. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but as I grew up, I didn't hear much about people having dyslexia. Like, it felt like a taboo type topic, but I don't know why. And maybe it's just like because we've been in this thing for a couple of years about understanding that dyslexia is a superpower, that it's so great with being able to look outside the box and perspectives. But it's just, I don't know, it's just this taboo thing.
Yeah, especially with the older generation, I think. I think the younger generation are just that much more open-minded with everything, whether it's gender, race, disabilities. I know my girls are, I'm very proud of their outlook on life. I think they're a fantastic, fantastic generation. And I've learned a lot from them, and I think they've given me the courage to stand out. But I also think that we've just learned a lot with science. You know, we know a lot more about how the dyslexic brain works, what side of the brain works, what the phonological issues are, why we struggle, the fact that it isn't intelligence. I don't think in the past that they knew that. So yeah, I think the world's changing, and I think we still know very little about the brain. And I think that we're like a part of society that we can understand why we're the way we are. I don't know if it's the same in the US, but currently in the UK there's a lot more understanding on ADHD. There's lots of people being diagnosed as adults where they're learning a lot more about the brain. And I just think those who are still kind of they don't understand dyslexia, and those people who don't seem to understand it, accept it, they don't have a lot of empathy. And I kind of smile to myself and I think, you're going to have a label one day as well, because you really struggle with kind of understanding people's differences. And actually, I'm not going to be cross about it because I struggle with spelling. So maybe actually you have something that you struggle with as well. And your struggle is empathy and understanding of differences. So I'm working on very much so of being non-judgmental there too. So I'm very careful when people come back, because I actually had one guy who thought that one conversation that said he thought that people who have dyslexia, they get it from trauma. I was like, well, if you're born with it, why do you think it's so? Yeah, there's still a lot of misconceptions out there. So yeah, I'm just proud of it. I'm proud of me, and since talking about dyslexia, I've got more clients than what I had before. It's the talking
Awesome.
about dyslexia, so it's working as well, and I'm getting to meet some amazing people. This week actually I've just picked up the bookkeeping for a charity, and they're called the Adult Dyslexia Charity, and I can't wait to hear more about what they do, and I'm going to be meeting the founder, I think, in a week or two, and seeing how I can support them. I also reached out to somebody else at networking, and he helps people on the streets. And I thought, I don't know the statistics, I've not looked into it, but the statistics about people who have gone into prison, who are on the streets, who have some type of undiagnosed dyslexia, because we've had our struggles, haven't we? And I just thought, oh, if they needed help, if they were trying to get on their feet and they were passionate landscapers and they needed help, I want to build the business so I could kind of provide that help and support, somebody that they could ring. So I'd like to kind of maybe bring that into the charity that they're working with, maybe. So yeah, loads of ideas for the future, but I have to just do one step at a time because I want to do everything like now.
Right. Yeah. Everything right now. Everything has to
Yeah,
get done.
yeah.
And I love it, Nicola. It shows your passion. Like it shows the amazing individual that you are. That I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but the difference between villains and heroes is the way that they act on the pain that they felt. Because villains, they have that pain of this has happened to me, and they turn it into so I'm going to harm other people. Whereas heroes, they say this has happened to me, and I'm going to do something to where other people don't have to feel that same thing.
Mm.
And the way that you've taken your story is so commendable, because you went from that the pain that you felt through your experiences, your past and everything, and you've turned into a real hero, someone who
Oh,
is
thank you.
going out and just with full passion and just wanting to help, who's helping a lot of different people. And I just want to share my appreciation for you with that.
And the reason you are taking it like that is because you truly understand my story, because my words resonate with you and how you felt, and again, how you are moving on with your life and in your direction. Um, Others don't quite get it. I don't think if you haven't fully walked our path, you don't fully understand. And not wanting to bring race into it, but it has opened my eyes to things like the Black Lives Matter. And when they, for example, said, unless you've walked my path, you don't understand.
Mm.
I kind of understand now. And you know what? It's okay not to understand, but if we don't understand, let's just all listen. And sometimes I think we have to accept things we don't understand as well, and think, okay, you're saying what you are saying from where you are coming from. Although I don't fully understand it, that's okay. But I will take what you are saying and just keep learning and just keep educating. I went to the dyslexia show in Birmingham in the UK. An amazing guy called Aaron Smith did it. Oh my God. We were like at a rave. We were all high as kites on dopamine and love for each other, because it was just everybody understanding everybody. Everyone was like big smiles and hello, nice to meet you, speaking to everybody. It was just kind of this like happy club. It was the most surreal thing. And lots of us on TikTok, I was seeing like people on TikTok. I felt like I was seeing like A-star actors, because I'd been following them and learning about their dyslexia journey. And then I'd kind of hover and they'd turn around and say, oh, hello, Nicola, because I'd commented so many times. It was absolutely hilarious. But afterwards, everyone felt like they were on a bit of a, when you get back from holiday and you're feeling a little bit glum, because we'd just found like our community. It was absolutely fantastic, and it would be lovely to see something like that in the USA. It was absolutely incredible, and I think he's going to think about trying to do like small versions of it. But when I was just there as a visitor, and I was sitting listening to people, and it was just amazing listening to people telling their story, and I just kept wanting to butt in and shout out, I get that. Yeah, I felt like that all the time. It was wonderful. Really good.
I don't know if there's anything like that in the US. I've only been in kind of like understanding other people in that these last couple of years. I'm curious if they have that here, because that sounds like, that sounds really cool. I would love to be a part of one of those.
It was really, really good. It was really, really good. Well, maybe it's something to speak about to other dyslexics, and I'll send you some, bits that you can advertise so you can like see what they did. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to see them. I'd love to jump over to something about the mindset that a dyslexic has who focuses more on the positive than the negative. So you brought up in your story the word superpowers. Now, if you are just getting into understanding your dyslexia, or you haven't seen the bright side of it, it might be hard to absorb that word and think of dyslexia as something that's good. But you've given several examples about how dyslexia is a superpower. From you, out of all the different things that are great, that are like that enhance us as dyslexics, what's your favorite superpower that dyslexia has given you?
Mine, I've already mentioned, but it's definitely got to be seeing it three-dimensionally, seeing the whole thing. The flip side is sometimes I have to work harder on the detail, but being able to step back and just see how everything you do has an effect. And you do an effect, do an effect. And when there's lots of do's, there's lots of effects. So to be able to see that as a whole in business is really good, because something that you are looking at in this little box could sound like a really good idea, but actually if you step back, it might not be the best plan. So I would say that has definitely got me to where I am, is definitely that skill.
I agree with you. I think there's a heavy thing with the ability to be able to have great perspective. It's like if you're an eagle, you're able to just soar above everything and just be able to see the whole landscape in front of you. Where most people, they're just on the ground, they're able to do the little details, the little pieces that, in all honesty, is hard.
Yes,
it's
yes,
hard to figure out those details.
yes. And that's it. There is a place for us. You know, I liked the way you described that, and I've heard something similar before. You know, in the past, we would have been the ones up the mountain watching where the predators are going, looking out and seeing, and then sending that information back, or looking at the bigger picture. We're not those people on the ground that's looking at that prey and going for it there. We are we are a little bit of a step back, but we're looking at the whole thing. And that's what it is, you know, everybody. I remember at school when I was younger, people saying everybody's good at something. And I got to 16 and I thought, not me. Everyone kept saying, I'll find it, everyone's good at something. Well, no, that's not me. So I think I'm just so glad I found it. And it's true. That thing that I truly believed wasn't true is true. And that's brilliant.
Well said. What are some of your favorite accomplishments that you've achieved in your life?
I think my favorite is still to come, and I think it's going to go from Dyslexic Desk. Um, I it's probably selfish, but I love making other people happy. And sometimes you can be a bit of a people pleaser and detriment yourself. And I feel like I've flipped it now. So I don't have to be a yes man people pleaser, but I can make people happy. That makes me happy because I'm seeing them happy. So I think it is getting the courage. And one of the best lines that I heard, phrases that I heard was not fake it till you make it, because we don't want to be fake, but be it till you see it. Came from a guy called Rob Moore, who's an author in this country. And I was like, yes, 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 yeah, be it till you see it. I can be whatever I want to be. And I believe that we can all be whatever we want to be, especially in this day and age with technology and IT. You know, there is a lot of support there. We might have to work harder, we might have to get support. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think we can all get where we want to be. Because let's face it, you know, I don't want to be a physicist or something. So, you know, I'm not even going to try that. But if you've got a passion about something, I believe that everybody can, with the right people behind you, get there. And I want to be that little place where this little hub where, oh yeah, we found them. We can get where we want to go with this little community that we're going to build.
You have a way with words that just always leaves me thinking more. I don't know if you have recognized that when you talk, I have to sit here for a second. Maybe it's my dyslexia, but it's so profound, the way and the flow of your words, that it makes me just want to sit for a few seconds and listen to you more.
I love that. I love that. I will take that as a compliment. Wouldn't have taken things as a compliment a few years ago, but yeah, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. And it's probably due to a lot of the listening I do. I have worked hard on my self-confidence, and I will work on it every single day of my life forever, because, well, that's another story. I was going to say, I actually believe that we should be teaching it to young people. But yeah, no, we all have to work on our mental health and good things. And audiobooks have just been a blessing. I do like to read, but because my work is quite brain heavy, in my chill out time, I've actually learned that actually physically reading a book doesn't help me the next day at work, because I need to rest that part of the brain. But now I can educate myself by just listening and relaxing to books. So yeah, I listen to all sorts, whether it's business or self-care, and I've also had therapy, which isn't as big here in the UK as what it is in the USA. It was actually my eldest daughter who said to me, mum, go and get some help when I was first diagnosed. You know, people do it all over the place, blah, 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 blah. And really starting to learn about the brain as well, I think I think it's important for everybody to understand why sometimes we can think negatively and the effects on. I think there was a study done. It was on ADHD rather than dyslexia, but we've got a lot in common. And it was something along the lines of, don't quote me on the stats, but a child at the age of 10 would have had a ridiculous amount, like 50,000 more negative comments made to them than a neurotypical child. And they say that with that effect, you carry something, you kind of feel like you feel like shame, and shame is a really horrible emotion. And I don't want anybody to feel that shame. It's awful, just because they're different for whatever reason. Nobody should feel that for whatever reason. So yeah, just that
I agree.
empathy that we have.
Yeah, I agree. And please, I hope that the way I said it wasn't like a question if it was a compliment or not. It was fully a compliment to you, saying that your words are so rich and so great with like the flow that you have of it, that I have to sit here and, or I get to sit here and absorb that wisdom and just be like, wow, that was powerful.
That's music to my ears, because that's what I want to be able to do to people. I want people to feel that way, because that's what happened to me. I was down, and like I said, I heard people talking about dyslexia positively, and it gave me hope. And that hope I built upon, and I'm now sitting here speaking to you and giving back to you what I listen to as well. So yeah, let's pass that on, let's pass that positivity on, and those positive emotions and positive feelings, because we're all going to gain from it. You know, let's forget the negativity. We can support each other throughout the negativity. Don't want to ever come across as if I'm just not understanding. Or I think sometimes people can get offended by the superpower. I did have a comment on my TikTok once that somebody had taken offense to me talking about it. And the TikTok, I am careful with using it because of that. And that I just said that I'm not adverse to it because it gave me hope. And this person was just like, it's insulting, it's not true. I would never say that to my child because it's a lie. So I think the term was taken literally. I then held back because I didn't quite know how to respond, because I didn't want to kind of jump in and start defending myself. Um, and it was quite difficult, really. So it's something that I would like to work on, in knowing how to support somebody who obviously feels that the dyslexia is only challenging. And I think that was her issue, that she wasn't, he, I can't remember, that person hadn't identified any of the positives. And I think maybe I've probably been there in the past as well, because I got to see some of the positives because of some of the oh, what's the word I'm looking for? When I worked for, again, for, I keep talking about it, but when I worked for that company that I ended up left, they were believing in me and they were giving me opportunity. That's the thing. I was given opportunities that I took, and that helped. And maybe that person hasn't had those opportunities yet. So that's something I really want to work on, those people, and maybe find another term, another way of talking about it without actually using superpower, um, just to see if we can get those people as well. And then I might come up with, somebody else.
Yeah, it's it's still a touchy topic, and whether they have it or probably more could be impactful if their child has it. I
Yeah,
can see that being like as a parent, I haven't had to deal with this because my girls are still pretty young. But if one of them gets dyslexia, I can see that there's a version of having to put in extra effort to read, having to spend a little bit more money on tutors and stuff to help get their reading level and speaking level to where it needs to get. Like I can see all these factors that go into it. And so if I were in that situation, I were to come across your video, I'd think, what are you talking about? This is like
yeah,
the bane of my existence. This is such a
yeah,
hard challenge. How dare someone say that it's
yeah,
a power?
yeah, yeah,
But we also got to think about it as that's just the situation that they're in life.
yeah.
And maybe it's because of your video that they posted that comment, and the next day they're like, well, maybe there might be something different. And then,
Yeah,
they might not reach out to you, but maybe you could have changed their life. And
it
even
could
if
be
you
something. Yeah,
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 and even if you didn't, you still reach so many more people on sharing that perspective. So
yeah.
obviously, you know this, but we can't dial back the message of how great dyslexia can be. Of course, it's going to be hard. Of course, it's going to suck some days, but like there's still some great things because of it.
Yeah. I really do hope that that person does see the other side of the scale. Life is doesn't matter what you're talking about. It all comes down to balance, doesn't it? I think life is very much a getting those scales, and sometimes it works up and down. And I do think those with dyslexia, the down comes at an early age. So I do very much hope that with education we bring in a lot more of that teaching and understanding and support of that of you mentally as well, to help keep building that up because it's so important.
As someone as an adult, what would you recommend for individuals who are recently diagnosed? What should they do? What, like, if they're feeling lost, like both of us have felt before, what
Yeah,
would you recommend to them?
it's it's education. Learn about dyslexia. If you can get a diagnosis, and the reason for that is because the I'm not an assessor, but understanding your diagnosis will help you know where your strengths and weaknesses are. And knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are is the first step to put in strategies to help you tackle and overcome them. So if we're really looking at the struggles that we have, and ensure that it is a professional that gives you that advice, um, because it really, and then for me, understanding the science behind it is just, oh, okay, that's it. It's just fact. It is fact. Okay, this is the fact. What can I do? What can I do next? And yeah, just talking to other dyslexic people is the best thing that I have done, because we just learn from each other, we support each other, making sure that you get that connection, that understanding. You know, the conversations we're having today, it's like therapy for both of us. We're both feeling, talking and opening up, and I think that's important.
Where would you suggest going to find these other dyslexics out there?
I would like to know more on the US. Maybe I'll put that question back to you. But in the UK, there is the British Dyslexia Association, which is fantastic. It's lots of free resources on there. There is the Dyslexia Show, Aaron Smith, and TikTok, may I say, has been fantastic. Some great, amazing people that I've come across through TikTok, and it just there's one guy, and he's called somebody Campbell, and he says, I'm not the soup, because there's a well-known English brand of Campbell soup, and he's a comedian as well, so his TikToks are about dyslexia and making it funny, and he is just hilarious. So yeah, TikTok definitely. And where we met on a Facebook chat, didn't we? That's where we came across each other. So yeah, social media, I think, is fantastic with connecting for people. And in the USA,
Yeah.
what would you say?
Yeah, in the US, I think it's pretty much the exact same. Like there's the
Mhm.
Dyslexic Association that you can go to, but really like it's just type it into Google. Type it in Google, go to your favorite social media platform and type in the word dyslexic, and people just show up, because just like any topic, politics, religion, anything, like there might not be any or as many videos as it, even though there's still like millions upon millions. There are people out there who are talking about it, like the
Yeah,
comedian Dyslexic. There's podcasts about it. So yeah, I'd recommend the exact same thing. Just going onto your favorite social media, typing it in, and start to just watch these people. Because as you start watching the people, then you look into the comments. The comments are full of people who are dyslexic, and then
yeah.
you
And if
start
you click
to
on
them.
them and then see what they're saying, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
definitely.
that ball effect. And you're right. Education, education, education. You are
Yeah,
absolutely spot on. When you're first diagnosed, it's just you learn. You full engulf on learning, and it doesn't have to be reading. It can be
no,
listening, it can
exactly.
be watching. So many different ways that we can get an education.
Yeah, exactly. Just that.
For as we wrap up, for people who want to get in contact with you, for people who want to follow you on social media, where's the best place to reach you?
TikTok, I would say, for social media. And my TikTok is Nicola Dyslexia Desk. And in July 2024, my website should be launched, which will be www.dyslexia-desk.uk, which I'm really looking forward to doing. So yeah, I'd love to come across other dyslexics and give me a follow, and I'll follow back. It'll be lovely to connect.
Absolutely. And all the links to Nicola's socials for TikTok, as well as that's exciting. You're in July, that's coming. All those links will be in the description, that you can follow her and find her. We're going to jump to one of my favorite portions of it, which is the last question. And thank you for reminding me that it's Stephen Bartlett and his
Well,
podcast that does this. So what it is, for the people who haven't heard about it before, is that the person that I last interviewed left a question for you. And you're not going to know who they are. They're not going to know who you are, but they left a question for you to answer, and you get the gift of asking another question to a future individual. But here's the question for you. Very, I love the simplicity of it. How did you come about what you're doing?
how did I come about what I am doing? So I came about what I'm doing. I keep repeating it while my brain is chugging. I think I've kind of covered little bits, but mainly through my diagnosis and through my passion of helping people and being brave and taking a little step. What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And my next step is that I think my daughter's going to be joining my business because I need some support. So it's growing. So just taking that next step. And if you don't know the answer, find it out and then take the next step. So that's how I've got to where I am now, just taking it step by step.
I love that. Nicola, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all you listeners who listened in and listened to this amazing conversation on dyslexia. That wraps up another episode of Light Beyond Limits. If you found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast, as well as we'll have all the links for Nicola and her TikTok, as well as her website down in the description. And until next time, continue to light up the world, continue to be the best version of yourself, and always remember that a breakthrough is just a simple step away. And we're already at the place that we need to get to the next level that we need to go. So go ahead and take that next step. We'll see you on the next episode of Light Beyond Limits.